Roll call, please.
Covert.
Here.
Crowner.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lees.
Here.
Young.
Here.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
So move.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Take a motion for our consent agenda.
Motion to approve is presented.
Support.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. We'll go to our council and staff reports. City Administrator.
Just a couple things tonight, Your Honor. Still working with Beaverdale. They've got a point of contact that they've been working with. They're looking to contract for the initial study with Klinger. So we'll working with them. Hope to have a draft or their comments on the contract back to council shortly. So they are making progress. Hopefully that continues. We'll be looking to attend the STBG funding discussion next week from Mount Pleasant Street. DC went well. Talked to several folks. I've done some follow-up with staffers and with those that were able to attend, and continuing to follow up on our portion of it as well. Surveys. If you haven't done it, speak now or forever hold your peace. I need you to fill out the zoning application, the zoning one. If you haven't done it, and that's the paper one, send that to, or hand that to Kelly or I. If you haven't done the comprehensive plan survey online, and or taking a look at the interactive map, if you could please do that, I'd appreciate it. And encourage others to do so as well. Like to get as many returned as possible and back, so I appreciate that. Melanie and I ran into each other, I don't know, sidewalk?
Yes.
Talking about the trailhead, and Melanie had met with one of our local residents who was interested in participating in the trailhead, had some ideas on the shelter and how that could be constructed, perhaps using some local materials or reuse of materials. So we were thinking and talking about maybe putting together just a citizen committee, maybe with a council member or two, myself, and just a small group to kind of come back with some ideas on the trailhead and specifically the structure, and bring that back to council for consideration. But we thought that might be a good idea, just to get some input from the public and anybody that might be interested. So
I'd be interested in that.
no, thank you, but we appreciate it. You're on the sign committee. But yes, no, I think it'd be a good idea, and take advantage of those that might be interested. Dennis Lee?
Dennis Lee, yeah.
Yep, was the other individual. So yes, so we'll probably put that together and get a few folks that might be interested and get something together. So, and I'll give you a buzz, John,
Okay.
after the meeting.
I'm assuming a number of cyclists would be interested in seeing that completely.
All pedestrians who walk and
Okay.
use various modes of acceptable transportation on the trail are probably interested in seeing it completed.
Thank you. Any other information, Greg?
Not tonight.
Okay.
For this.
Mike, Public Works?
They've got the wall poured today on the bridge for the trail. They're formed up on the south side. They got some work to do before they can pour over there, so it's moving along slowly, but it's still, they're progressive. Casey's just set their tanks today, in the process of filling them with water so they don't float, and they're backfilling right now, so they'll be working till dark. So if you get watered down gas, you'll know why. But spring cleanup's done. If you have something in your yard, dispose of it yourself. It was either bagged garbage, cardboard, things we don't take. It's on the list. Most people have already cleaned up what we've left, so if it's still in your yard, it's your responsibility. All I got.
Thank you. Police Department?
Nothing I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Anything from the fire department other than what we're,
Nothing other than tonight's item.
anything from our city clerk,
Not tonight.
finance? Okay, I'll go to staff. Council, I'm sorry. Start down, Melanie's in this time.
Just Greg, what's rough number on how much input, feedback have we gotten on all the 3 different survey categories? We have any quantifiable numbers, 1 or 2 or?
66, I think, total comments on the map.
Not on the map, but on the zoning survey. The one survey, we had 30-something, and you wanted to get at least 50 for a good sample. So we really want to get that out and about. The zoning, we've asked, that sheet is for ZBA, planning and zoning, staff and council.
Okay.
The comprehensive plan piece, so we, as many people as we can get back, but at minimum, we'd like to get 50 just to make sure we have a good sampling. And then that, the interactive map is there for people to put ideas out on what they'd like to see in and around the community. So I'd encourage folks to go on there, either comment on what's there or add items. It's a very simple process to do so. But if you haven't filled out any of the 3, I'd encourage you to do that as soon as possible. It will be open till the end of June, the
I
comprehensive
think they
plan.
must have extended it, because I think it was May 30th. Was
Is it May 30th? I think it was the end of June, but for the comp plan and for the map. But they would like to get the zoning piece back as soon as possible.
Gotcha, thank you. Especially the comprehensive plan, what that's going to set our
Yes.
direction till 2045 and inform decisions and where we spend money going forward. So this is a good chance for citizens to have input and help inform the decision the council makes. So folks, I encourage you to fill it out and let us know what you want. Want to tell police good job on getting the $20,000 grant to do public safety enforcement. So I don't know if that's an automatic thing or not, but I'm sure somebody had to ask for it and get it, so good job. Thank you. Hey, Kelly, how are we doing on the pool?
I think she said she has 26 people hired, so we just had 3 more people pick up applications today. We need more lifeguards, though, so that's our biggest need right now. We have a lot of, I'm impressed with how many young kids come in and want to work, but a lot of them are just 14 and they're just anxious to get started, so you only have so many places for that young of kid, but we're working again tomorrow. Kelly's going to come in and get our first round of concession food ordered and just kind of finish organizing some paperwork and things.
Good, thank you. Thanks for the update. That's all I have. Thank you.
Therese?
What time is that meeting tomorrow on the pool?
I'm not sure what time Kelly's coming in. Maybe she didn't really say yes tomorrow. Usually it's been like 9 or 10ish. Want me to text you?
If it's after 10.
I'll text her now and ask her just to see.
It'll be nice to know if I can sleep in or not. And, no, I don't have anything.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, summer's out, bikes are out, and once again, I think we need to make them aware that they need to stop at stop signs. They are running the stop signs over by the hospital, and then, if that was a car running that, we'd give them a ticket. If it was a motorcycle, we'd give them a ticket. And they're just running through there like, I've seen it twice. I go out there because my mother-in-law's out there, and they have no fear, no nothing of running that. I brought this up last year, and I don't know if the police, stopped anyone since then.
I'll send an email out to everybody.
Okay. I just don't want somebody to get hurt for a stupid thing like what could happen. Okay. That's all I got.
Okay. Andy?
I'm in full 4th of July mode, so give me just a second on that. All the signups are on the website for events. If you want to join the parade, we're taking those signups, the Kids Talent Show. If you want to be a vendor at the vendor craft show, still selling raffle tickets. So if you have a group interested in selling raffle tickets, those are available here at City Hall. Obviously still accepting sponsorships, so appreciate all the sponsors that have come in so far, and we'll get a list updated on the website of that. Just announced the ban about 2 days ago, so that information is public knowledge. Student Body will be the headliner, who, it's probably been 12 years ago they played here, so great fun band, have a fun show, and the full schedule will be up here pretty soon, as I get back from Florida. So, I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
I just want to make sure that everybody's aware that this week is the Police Memorial Week, where they honor fallen officers from the past. I think we're over 50 so far that's been killed by gunfire in the United States. I did talk to Angie about this a little earlier, but if I asked her if she could get us the numbers for the animal shelter, how much we're paying on for the animals. I know we'll probably, because the price increase, and obviously spring, we have a lot of newborn kittens, puppies, and I'm just sort of curious what we're paying then on the fees on these things then. I know the shelter was pretty full last week where I believe they weren't even taking anything, was they?
No, been full for quite a while.
That'd be it, sir.
Okay, thank you. Any citizen inquiries on our agenda items? Okay. And we'll go to our old business, which is the approval of an urban chicken permit for 410 Ramsey. I have a motion.
Motion approved.
Okay.
A support, sorry.
Okay, motion and second. Any discussion on this?
I did go out, like I said I was going to. Didn't get out there as many times as I wanted to. I wanted to go 2 or 3 times. I ended up only going out once, but the place where they have this housed is pretty enclosed. You know, it's pretty tall. If I didn't know that there was chickens there because of this permit, I would not know that they were there. I did stick around just a little bit, and it was quiet. But that's not to say that they aren't, because my daughter has chickens, and they can be clickety and they can be quiet. They like bugs. Yeah. With that said, I just I don't see any problem with them having that there, but I know that I read that there's like 5 people here in our letter that says that they love them. I know that Andy doesn't like it, and that's. I did not call anybody and ask them because I saw this letter. So
I also went out John several times too, and I didn't. As you explained, the facility where they have them is high. I wouldn't have known they had chickens. My son had chickens out at his farm, and they do cluck when they feed. But I did not hear. Again, maybe it was the timing, probably when I was there. And I know they had to have been approved last year for this, and based on, obviously they didn't contact you, Annie. I don't know if they just didn't measure the angle right, and they make the courtesy call. But it appears that the rest of the neighbors, which would be right next to the chickens, if they were really, it was like, yeah, it would disapprove, but they didn't see that. So I tend to agree with it, that there's no harm right now.
To me, this is a much bigger conversation than just this one house, who does neighbor me, but it wouldn't matter where this was. If it was within kind of town proper, I don't think any farm animal should be encased in that small confines of town. And when I'm bringing somebody to town and showing them houses and there's chickens next door, let me guarantee you there are some percentage, whether that be 2 or 20, that don't want to live next to that, and that's why they live in town. It's not expected in town. It's not normal to be in town, and that devalues your home, and that's what we're doing to our neighbors by doing that. because some buyers won't want to live next to that. And that's not an anecdotal thing, that's a daily thing in my life, that if there's strange things next door that are unexpected, then some percentage of people don't want to live in that house, and that drives down your market value. However, let's say the four of you are in favor of having these chickens and doing this, then we need to change code, not just spot do this on one person in the middle of town. We actually need to set up the code. If you're in favor of urban chickens, then we need an urban chicken code, and actually set this up in a position where anybody who wants them can have them, and we do them under the constraints of code that we want. So if that's where you're going and you want to continue to do it, I just highly recommend doing that. Some examples, I pulled one from Iowa. They make sure they set the number of chickens that can be had in one residence. They make all chickens be banded so you know where they're coming from if they get loose. They talk about the enclosures and what they must be done, what happens if there's noise and odor complaints. They make it so the city is not liable if they do cause issues. All of these things that we have skipped by just saying, you're fine, you can have them. So I would go one way or the other. If you're in favor of them, let's get a code in place. If you're not in favor of them, we need to get them out of town.
Andy, on that, I agree with you on having a code, it'd be common sense. I think what drove this in the first place on the chickens was the economy. Because the price of eggs, if everybody remembers, just not that long ago, was skyrocketing. And that's why people were just trying to think of ways to save money. Although me personally, I think that after seeing the expensive chicken feed and it's an organic egg, I don't think it's that much of a savings right now, unless you do it out on a farm where some people just let their chickens run and they fend from, they get their food themselves. But I do like the idea of the code. Kelly, you said there was several other people that was considering.
There are two right now that we're gonna have that have chickens that need to get a permit if they're gonna keep them.
I think that, I fear that you're going to make such a code that it's impossible to have chickens. And you can set up enough a perimeter where you can have that, and I think that's bullshit. If you're gonna allow them, do it on a daily basis or a regular basis, particularly whether or not that they can take care of them, whether the pens like this one over here. I think it's just fine the way it is, because otherwise you're gonna make it so that my assumption would be that you'll make it so it can't be, and that's not what the wishes are.
Yeah, I don't agree with that at all. That would be, again, that's not, if you were going to go that way, right now it's all playing favorites. Right now, the code says you can't have it. That's what our code says today, and the only way you can have it is if you come before us and we agree on it. And if we're saying no, urban chickens are okay, then we need to change code and say they're okay, and here's what, maybe limitations are none, but you need to change the code, and we need to comply with that code then, not just say you can have it and you can't, and the next council might change that. No, we should put it in code. That's what we're here to do.
Is that any different than like the planning and zoning, where we come in and say, hey, we don't have this much setback or something, but you can get a variance to do it? I mean, it's the same thing as what this is. If the chickens are, if you come to the council and it's in the right spot, the right place, and you can have it. It's no different than getting a variance.
Code today says you can't do it.
But without a variance, and that's what we did. Okay, we do that every day
frankly, to me, that makes zero sense. We're here to set code and do that right, and set up the city to be maintained by these laws, and today we're saying we're just going to go all the way around that. So no, I don't agree with that at all. If you want to do it, just like everything else, we should do it in code.
And it's okay that you disagree with that, Andy, but that's fine.
Okay.
I just disagree with that.
And with that, I'm going to move to this side of the room here.
I also went to look for the chickens and had difficulty making sure it was at the right location because they're not visible. So I think what they're doing today works. We haven't had a lot of incidences, or none that I'm aware of, other than this first request a year ago or so. And this property owner seems to have done it the responsible way, put out there what they were going to do, kept the minimum, a number of chickens they said they would, and no roosters. So I think what we're doing is working. We need to monitor the situation. If we end up where 10% of the towns or so, 10% of the properties in town all of a sudden want to start having chickens, for example, we may need to adjust that. But right now, I think we're in a very low density situation. Very few people want to do this. And egg prices are coming down, so maybe that'll mitigate some people who may have wanted to do this. So basically, I kind of think what we got is working. Let's continue to monitor the situation. But I'm good with what we got today.
Therese?
Well, when we voted for this a year ago, I think we had talked about looking at ordinances regarding how many chickens you could have and stuff like that, but nothing ever came through for us to look at until now. Now it's been a year, and now we're discussing it again. I think that probably we can look at some ordinances that other cities have in place for urban chickens. The price of eggs have come down until we have another wave of avian flu, which could be in the next 3 months. I mean, I think these people have done well, but apparently we have a couple of other residents that have chickens without proper authorization. Is that correct?
Correct. And at least one with a rooster. And this individual did have a incident with theirs where they were out and loose, and we did notify them if they failed to contain them, that they, per the permit, that they would be that their permit would be pulled.
So I think
They
with that,
complied
we
and cleaned it
probably
up.
need to look at setting up an ordinance and get it contained, because I don't think I want to live next door to a rooster. I've got enough trouble with squirrels and bunnies. I don't need
You
more.
don't want a rooster. I mean, this has been going on across the United States, West Coast. I mean, it's been going on, urban chicken discussions and in Iowa for years now. Personally, I'm simply not in favor of it, but I'm happy to do whatever council's direction is. If you are going to do it, I would suggest having a code in place. With variances in special use permits, we do have rules and regulations, and when and how those can be issued by the ZBA or planning and zoning. So there are rules as to when those can be issued. So just like any other thing, I think there should be standards in place, even if they're minimal standards, in regards to chickens in this case.
It's just like the Board of Adjustment. If you start granting variances for the same thing over and over and over, you need to change the code and regulate it and not just keep getting variances over and
But
over and
there's
over.
different
I agree with that.
Yeah, there's different situations for different things, and that's why I think it's good the way it is.
I think right now it's just kind of so vague in the code that it's not easy to just pull up and see it's livestock. They follow a lot of the nuisance abatement laws that are already there, but it's just, there's some things that could be more clear if you're going to start allowing them.
We haven't given you folks the tools that if there is an issue, how are you supposed to respond?
It's very limited. There is a provision on the paperwork that says that we can pull their permit.
Yeah.
That's really the only option there is. So draft a letter, send it to the property owner, they responded. And that's really my only option at this point in time, is to simply pull the permit and have them remove the chickens from the premises.
That's kind of
Like they
hard for
said,
the
you'll
two
make
people
it so
that don't have
they can't have
permits.
them.
I had 2 people going there. I'm sorry?
Excuse me, John.
Sorry.
I'll get you a hearing aid. For the 2 people that have went and got chickens without contacting us to get a permit, it's gonna hard to pull their permit when they've just gone out and
Yeah.
got their own
They need to
chickens.
comply or they'll be removed.
So I personally think that we need to look at setting up an urban chicken permit and put down how many chickens we want and no roosters and,
When you say no roosters, I'm gonna tell you, you get a batch of chickens, you're not gonna know whether there's a rooster in there or not. I'm gonna tell you.
once you know it's a rooster.
Once you know it is, okay, but if you're gonna write that permit so that no roosters, and then they have a rooster that they don't know about, then you can pull it, and I'm telling you, it's
That's the way it
It's
is
not
today.
actually, that's not actually true. You can walk over to Huffman's and order exactly what you want.
I'm gonna tell you, you can't. There's,
Done it for
Kathy
years.
has gotten them, and they were all hens, and there was 2 or 3 roosters in them. And I even saw them, I even looked at them.
Well,
They
So
come
is there a
through.
general consensus then for
Yeah, it
looking at
seems
getting a permit?
Permit, I think.
And-
Burlington doesn't allow
Ordinance.
roosters. Most places.
Most places do not allow roosters, and even if you do get a batch, yeah, I mean, that's when you have chicken soup.
Soup, exactly.
Well, you know,
tell you,
it's
you're
just,
gonna
that's
get-
one of the things, like, if you're in
you get rid of
town, you're
them.
gonna have
You-
to have
you're
some
gonna get 'em.
regulations that are a little more.
I don't want to live next to one.
Well, with that, I'm assuming that we'll go ahead and have something presented to us at some point here on resolution. And keeping in mind that John doesn't want it so that we can't have any chickens.
Thank you.
I'll ask for a vote on this then.
Johnson,
Aye.
Weeze,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Crowner.
No.
Motion passes. We'll go on to new business. We have our final reading of an ordinance repealing Ordinance 541 and granting Interstate Power and Light Company a non-exclusive 25-year franchise to supply electric energy to West Burlington and require Interstate Power and Light Company to pay a franchise fee to the city. I would entertain a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion at this? This is our final reading, so.
So Greg, you got a letter from them saying which ones it was, and I didn't see that in this. Can we add that to it so that that letter is with this? So it doesn't get lost?
It's in the packet.
Huh?
It's in the packet.
I didn't see it on.
It was provided at the last meeting, and it's in the packet tonight, too. Yes. And then I did get a hold of, was able to talk to Rural Electric, Councilmember Johnson, and asked me to check with Rural Electric. They're going to get me numbers as to how many customers from Rural Electric are in the city limits. And they have one other franchise, and that's with the city of Clinton. And I checked my email before coming over, and Clinton sent me their information as well for consideration. So I'll compile that and send it out to council once I get the numbers from REC to see what we're looking at. They have no objection to proceeding. They've done it with Clinton, and I'm happy to do so. But he didn't have a sense of numbers, and he's going to get that information put together.
So just to clarify, it's only electric?
Yes.
It's not the gas?
Yes.
Okay.
I just have one other comment. Obviously, I'm against this, and that's fine. I won't argue the whole thing. I just, at some point in time, we're actually going to have to do this project out there, and this is not going to fund it. I mean, there's no way mathematically that this can actually fund it.
Absolutely right.
And so at that point in time, we're going to wind up taking an SRF loan or something like that to pay for this, and be adding that onto the sewer bill or something to pay for that loan. And I hope at that time, we all look at this and go, okay, well, we've moved this fee onto the sewer. Let's take this back down to zero, is my hope. And there'll be a lot of arguments for keeping it and paying for something else. But I hope we can at least have that discussion and talk about when we move this fee for that project that we all said, this is what we're doing, and now we're going to pay for it out of sewer, that we go back and lower this back down and don't just keep it forever. So that's my hope. I'd rather not do it, but that's my hope.
Just a quick clarification, though. With the SRF, you do have to make sure that your rates, you have to prove that your rates will pay back the debt. but with other potential methods of debt, whether it be GO or revenue bond, whatever it might be, those could be paid back with the franchise fee, just to be clear.
If I read what Andy was saying, though, we could lower the fees to make up for what we're getting and still get the,
No, you still have to pay the loan back, so
but we could do it through this because we lowered the fee, the water rate. No?
No.
Can't do that?
It depends on the type of loan and
Yeah, but that could be done. And
if you were to raise sewer rates, you could then, and if you were to get a SRF loan, which requires you to utilize your sewer rates, you would then correspondingly, you could reduce franchise fee proportionally to reduce that cost, something to that effect, or remove it.
And just my final comment on this is a positive thing. I hope this 6.5 to $8 million or whatever this is going to cost. Greg has been very good at finding other funds in the past, and I hope that that number is significantly lowered through grants and other opportunities to get that done. So
I do too.
with that, thank you.
I'll call for a roll call vote.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider the final reading of an ordinance repealing Ordinance 542 and granting Interstate Power and Light Company a non-exclusive 25-year franchise to supply natural gas to West Burlington and require Interstate Power and Light Company to pay a franchise fee to the city. Entertain a motion.
Motion to support?
Support?
Okay, support, thank you. Motion and support. Discussion on this particular item? Probably the same as the last one, so I'll call for a roll call vote.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
No.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Motion carries. Consider a valve repair at South Water Tower, so,
Motion to approve?
okay.
We'll support that.
Motion and support, discussion?
Mike, can you tell us about that?
Casey's store needs to do a tie-in for their water service, so we were over there shutting and isolating our tower because for them to do their tap, we have to isolate the tower to hold the water in so they can do their work. In that process, the nut broke off one of our 16-inch valves because of age and corrosion. We don't know exactly. This is an estimated price until we get it exposed. There's a possibility I could put the nut back on, but if it's corroded, the rest of it's going to be corroded, and in 6 months or a year when it starts leaking, then I have to jackhammer out Casey's new driveway and ours and start over. They already have to unhook the T off this valve and rotate it to move a hydrant out of there, so they're already going to have the line cut and the valve exposed. I just believe now's the time to put the new valve in before we put everything back and pour all the new concrete.
Any other discussion?
Well, I suppose I would ask you why you didn't do this if it went the other way and then broke, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
to me, it's a no-brainer, but
yeah.
With that discussion, then I'll call for a vote on this.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Motion carries. Authorize the use of Payrock, I guess, as the credit card processing system for iWorks building and licensing software.
Motion approved.
Support.
Motion and support. Any discussion on this?
I don't know nothing about it, so I guess I'm just gonna have to take the word.
This just allows people that are getting building permits to pay online through the website with this new software, that building permit software that we have from iWork. That's the payroll, that's the credit card processing company they work with.
And we're getting increased use of the online system already, which is nice. Yep.
I've had a discussion with the building inspector who said that one of the first people going through this, it was such a good experience, they're willing to be right online every time they need to.
Correct. Yep.
My only comment is just make sure that somewhere on that site, it shows that they're going to pay that credit card fee.
Yeah, they will pay that fee, and their receipt that they get will include that fee, but the city will not be charged that.
I would, before they're hitting anything, I would make sure that's right on the bottom. You know, if you're paying by credit card, you're paying the fees.
I'm not sure how it reads, but,
You need to be aware of the fee, though.
yeah, I think it does, it would have to show, I know our credit card out here does that too.
Okay, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay, we'll consider a resolution setting a public hearing date of June the 5th, 2024, to consider a budget amendment for fiscal year 23-24.
So moved.
Motion. Support. Motion and support. Any discussion? Okay.
Obviously, by looking at the agenda, we've had some things really pop up this last week, and it's, we do have some revenue amendments that we're gonna make for the building permits, but it seems like cars are breaking, trucks are breaking, water, sewer lines are breaking, so.
Okay.
We're still hopeful that in general, it'll come in under, this is a precautionary measure to make sure that we don't go over in those functions. And Angie had noted, it was interesting, building permit revenue is already over $100,000 as opposed to 34,000 plus or minus that we had budgeted, somewhere around there for this year, which is a nice little increase.
Are there any significant one-offs in there that we couldn't count on again for next year?
I mean, Alice Place is in there, Casey's is in there. Alice Place is going to be starting within the week here out there as well.
We haven't got Walmart yet.
Walmart's not in there yet, so. But, I mean, those two
Big or larger
are
ones?
larger ones. Oh, well, yeah, Alice Place would be larger.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. I'll call for a roll call vote.
Dees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Overt,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 6, consider a quote from Sean Cook to repair the transmission on the police department's 215 Ford Explorer Unit 1. Entertain a motion?
So moved.
Support.
Motion support.
I can give a little background on Unit 1.
Okay.
Is that your car?
Unit 1 was the second SUV that we got,
Yeah.
and it was assigned to me all the years until I retired. And this is the first major,
It's got the lowest miles too
yeah, it's
on it.
got the lowest miles, because I did a lot of stationary LiDAR and working with Derek, but I just want to say that this is the first time this vehicle's had this type of maintenance done on it. Other than that, we had worn repair work on it, didn't we, sort of done?
Yeah.
I guess it sort of goes to prove that it lasts this long, we assigned to one vehicle. We had, Grady was the first one that, even Chief O'Bleen was the one that instigated that, where if an individual is assigned one vehicle, take care of the vehicle and they can last a lot longer. And I think that this sort of proves itself in a way right now.
So who got the car after you, Ringo?
Well,
Problem child.
Officer Breck driving now.
It'll no longer be the one that we trade in, though, at this point. We'll choose a different one to trade in at this point.
I guess I got a question of why the transmission's out. Why did we get it taken out before we found out the prices on it? And so we couldn't get a second quote somewhere, because that seems extremely high to me.
I think he meant like it's out of commission.
It's broken. It's
Broken,
broken, not
that-
literally removed from the
It's
vehicle.
out.
Right.
No, it says it's out of the vehicle.
I think that's just how it's written. The transmission is out, the transmission is broken.
Is that,
I don't think they've removed it yet,
No.
to my knowledge.
I just think that's how Jesse wrote that.
It could be written clear. It's just, it's broken. It's not out of the vehicle itself.
well, if that's the case, then I think we ought to get a second quote. Because that seems high. Really high.
Certainly see, I'm not sure where else we've gone for the Ford transmissions around here, but we can check.
You can get, bet you can get that done for half.
Make,
Take that to Johnson Auto.
make a couple calls. Johnson Auto.
If you want, I'll get you a quote tomorrow.
Here they offer a 10-year warranty on.
But you're probably putting a used transmission in too, ain't you?
It's a remanufactured one, this will be a new one, or a remanufactured. It'll come from Jasper, which is guaranteed for, just like that one, that's where they're getting theirs.
You have the right computer equipment to program it?
Absolutely. And it's not me, but the person that would. And he does every day.
We can follow up if you want to let us know, or we can check one or two other places, yeah. So, I don't know that we've been anywhere else on the Fords for repair work, but we can certainly check.
Well, I'm okay.
Because they wanted to
approving
maintain them under the warranty.
Me too.
I'm okay approving the amount, and then if you want to shop around, all for that.
I'll go along with that.
Okay. That sounds like that's a friendly amendment. And I'll take a voice vote on this one to approve the amount rather than necessarily the company that'll be doing the work. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Number 7, consider accepting the donation of a 2000 Freightliner Alex pumper truck from the city of Burlington.
Discussion first?
I'll motion to approve so we can get to discussion.
Support.
Motion and support, so discussion.
Jesse approached me, received a communication from Chief Traxel to see if the city was interested in accepting the donation of this pumper, which was previously with the fire department a number of years ago prior to the transition of the Quad City Township to the city of Burlington versus the West Burlington Fire Department. In my mind, it's pretty simple, unless there were to be some restrictions on its future sale, which I have not heard to date. We've asked for a couple clarifying comments on the list that they provided, right here on the next page under the notes. But in general, in talking with the chief, we saw this simply as a benefit of having an additional tanker on hand. If we ended up having to put money into it, we'd simply try to sell it to a smaller community that would want to invest in an engine like this, which is pretty commonplace, and be able to invest in it. Worst case scenario, you could put it up or out for bid or scrap it. My understanding, there are no restrictions, but if there are, that would, I'd want to bring that back to council. But to me, we just simply saw this as an extra pumper, the only cost being essentially insurance at a minimal cost, liability. And, but if we did have to put any major expense into it, we really weren't interested in doing so. But it could be used as, again, as a trade-in or on a future vehicle sale for a smaller community that needed something. But in the meantime, it could simply be an additional tanker that we would have in place. And that's really the only benefit we saw. We're not this is, we don't have a hard position one way or the other for council. That's really the only benefit that we saw and appreciate their offer. And wanted to bring it forward to council for discussion.
Greg, do you know what the insurance cost would be on this if we had it? Or Angie, somebody looked it up.
I looked it up, and the insurance would be minimal on it. I think I pulled the numbers. Did I give them to you, Greg?
Yes, it's right here. It's going to probably range between 250 and 460.
Annualized?
Yes,
It's an
annual.
annualized, so
Annual cost.
250 to 460. And do we have any more insight why Burlington's just giving it to us?
Did they replace this with something new?
They don't have space to store it, don't know how to use it.
Chief had asked for some additional clarification. We hadn't heard back from Chief Drexel with Burlington yet, but this was an engine that was in our care and custody a number of years ago. It seemed to make sense, I guess, in my mind, to offer it back to the city of West Burlington to use in its capacity. I basically no harm, no foul. I think it's nice to have a little extra capacity. But if it were to have a significant cost of repair, then we simply would proceed in a different fashion. I just see it as an extra added benefit in the meantime, frankly. Appreciate the offer.
Yeah.
Do we know, are there any repairs required today before we could go out and do a call on it? I mean,
That's the specific question. We were
Okay.
waiting to hear back from Chief Drexel on those items under the notes there on that page.
I guess my first comment is just how nice of them to offer it back to us. I mean, that's obviously has some value to it, and they could just go sell it to somebody else if they wanted to. And so what a nice gesture from the city of Burlington. So that's great. I don't know that we need it or how much maintenance it's going to cost. If we had it and needed it, we'd be saying we need a new one by now, with it being a 2000.
We're not coming asking for a new one.
Yeah.
It's an extra added benefit, I think is basically how I put it. It's nice to have the additional tank capacity in responding if we need it specifically, like for a structure fire. But otherwise, no, we wouldn't be asking for a replacement vehicle for this one. We would simply move it on.
Burlington is getting a new truck. It's in final assembly now. That's what I was just told.
So a similar truck that would do what this one does.
I'm not sure what they
Okay.
exactly ordered. I just got a text that said that they're getting a new truck and it's in final assembly.
I kind of don't see the downside. I'd love to hear everybody else's opinions, but if we get it and it's going to take $10,000 to keep it up and going for the next year, then we sell it and we're ahead anyway. If we get it, we can use it for 2 or 3 years and then sell it, and maybe we put $2 or $3 grand in it, we sell it for 15 a couple years from now, great too, so.
And a lot of smaller communities do take on these, I'll call it end-of-life vehicles, although I tend to try to use them a little bit longer than, I guess, what traditional end-of-life would be on some of these vehicles, given the mileage. I think it only had 43,000 miles or something. If ever,
Yeah, it's
47,000
40,000.
miles. But a lot of smaller communities will take these and invest in repairs and be able to utilize them for a period of years, and rather than having to invest in a new engine. So that's certainly an option down the road as well.
Where would we store it when we're not
There's plenty of
using
room
it?
at the
There's plenty of
station.
room in the fire station?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Angie, on the amendment, the budget amendment that's coming up next meeting, don't we have money coming up to repair something on one of the?
The cab lift assembly is out on Rescue One, and so they can't change the oil in it until they fix it. And that's, I think, the quote was like around $2,500 for that, but it has to be fixed, so.
Because it seems like with the tower, we've had a lot of expenses maintaining the tower.
I think some of that, I will agree with you. But we haven't had issues with the tower lately. This is the rescue.
Knock on wood. I'd kind of like to wait and see what the expenses are going to be to fix it before I say yay.
One more question. Does anybody know, Jesse puts in his note that there's some areas within the city of West Burlington with little to no hydrant access. Does anybody know how many like households or structures, or how many was he referring to? Is it one or two places, or is it 20 to 30, or anybody know? I'd be curious to answer that, because this may be addressing a need that, or, you know, a situation where we can't get water to the fire. Or Angie, do you have that?
North Sunset's the only place I know that we don't have a line going to. We have hydrants in Sunset. I don't know what else Jesse was talking about.
Do we have a hydrant in South Sunset?
More than one, yeah. There's a loop, water main loop that goes through South Sunset. And there's a pretty good stretch from the shop to the end of the line on Washington Road. There's a gap in there, maybe with a hydrant not in there, but.
Did you mention Washington Road?
You said.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of places out on Beaverdale. I know that Westwood Estates.
Yeah, there's only one hydrant out there.
One hydrant there.
But is that ours, or we just do mutual aid out there?
Mutual aid out there.
That'd be our
That's Burlington's anyway, it's not ours.
auto aid.
Or auto aid.
Structure fires is auto aid, but any structure fire, I mean, the more water you can put on it, the quicker, along with manpower, the better off you are. I mean, so it's just, I just don't see it as a negative, unless we would have to put substantial dollars in it to utilize it, then it wouldn't make sense to keep it, but to either say thank you, but no thank you, or to try to get, sell it to a community that could use it.
Well, I see it a little different than that, but we know the frame's rusty on it. We don't know how bad, but we do know the frame's rusty on it. And that is, especially on emergency vehicles and stuff, is very expensive to fix. You know, they almost say you can't fix frames with per DOT thing because of, and I don't know how it is on the fire trucks, but I know on regular trucks. Then it is 24 years old. And if you look at the list of stuff that's going wrong with it, there is considerable amount of stuff going wrong. We did buy a new fire truck with a tanker on it because we got rid of this. And with the few houses, we really don't need that truck. We don't, if you look at it, it's going to be $500 to $700 a month, just the way they did it for expenses every month. You know, but they did use a lot of that was diesel fuel and stuff. Maybe we wouldn't run it that much for diesel fuel, but
I would see
they have it broke down. But parts, I absolutely don't see a reason for it myself. I don't, even if you gave it to me, I don't think I'd want it because of the maintenance that's going to be kept up. You know, I would assume tires are going to be $1,000 a piece, and I think they only replaced 2 of them 6 years ago.
I mean, it shows the tires are good. I mean, to me, this is something that we set in there, utilize for structure fires, get it on the scene.
But during our budget this year, we approved, or was going to approve tires, and they were good, they just were out of age, they said. You know, and then we took them off, if you remember, right? So, on other vehicles, other fire trucks. So I can see this just being another costly item.
We're committed not to spend a ton of money on this vehicle, just a minimal amount to keep it running and use it for what we think it could be best used for. But if it does become a cost factor, then we simply move on and offer it on any one of those options that we've already discussed. Appreciate the offer.
I appreciate the offer, but I'm not for it.
Can we table it till the next meeting when we know
Sure.
money-wise?
Absolutely.
Make a motion.
Just table it to a date certain.
I move that we table this until our next meeting.
You already have a motion.
I know, but this would be the supplementary, which would be the first one that I would call for.
I'm going to add to the, supplement the motion by tabling it until next meeting when we have an idea of cost to the city.
Motion and support. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. It's tabled. First reading of an ordinance amending the city code to include a new zoning district titled R6 Recreational Vehicle Park District and establishing regulations for said district.
Motion to approve.
Support.
Motion support. Any discussion?
I've got a couple comments I'd like to make. This is oddly a world I lived in for a long time. When I worked at Weingart, this was a big part of our, it was 1/3 of our market probably. So I just had a couple notes I wrote down of things I remember other places. There was a limit on how many days people could stay in a park in a year. And I know a lot of the parks we visited, they had a caretaker that stayed year round. It was kind of like the park manager. And so I wouldn't mind seeing an exclusion in that time period, that if you're the park manager, you're allowed to stay in a structure there year round and not have that time limit. The other two things I noticed, there talks about some storage and prohibiting that, any storage of vacant vehicles, vacant for more than 30 days. Some of the campgrounds, and I think there's one in Davenport, they kind of combined an RV park and an RV storage ground, but the storage had to be enclosed. And I wouldn't mind seeing that too, if council agreed that, again, I'm thinking more than just this one RV park, I'm thinking about everything going forward. I wouldn't mind seeing the storage capability because there's a need for that, but it needs to be enclosed. And then the last item I had, our current code as that reads doesn't allow for any required parking spaces. And I would require at least one parking spot per campsite. The majority of the campers that get pulled in are not like big Class A's that don't have anything towing them. A lot of them have a vehicle that actually tow them. And so I would say that they have to have a place to park, because otherwise the parks I've seen, they end up parking on the grass and all over the place, and they're wanting to pour gravel, and we know we don't want that. So those are the 3 points I saw reading through there.
Run that by that last one. How many vehicles?
One parking spot poured per campsite. So if you have 10, then you need 10 parking spaces.
I think I read that in there, didn't I? And then I think I read that if a person can prove that he's working in a place, that he can stay longer than 6 months.
Yes.
I read that somewhere, but you think I can find it now?
I guess when I read that, I thought that was more like for the ammunition plan, if they were working at a local facility, that they could.
Contract workers,
Right.
hospital, whatever it might be, nursing.
Not specifically a campsite manager.
My understanding, though, is the management would be handled directly next door by at the facility. Mr. Reif is here today, if you have any questions.
And again, I was thinking bigger
Right.
than just this one unit.
Right.
I'm thinking if we do 3 more of these 10 years from now, that this code's set up for that.
Right.
I think that's a good idea, because I think that's what you're gonna get in this campsite is people wanting to stay 3 months, 4 months, that moving every 14 days that a lot of them have isn't gonna work. There's a reason for that, like at Geode, because then people can move in and out, but this is a little bit different, so I think it needs that exception.
There is that exception in there. Where are you talking about the additional one that Andy's talking about?
Yeah.
For a camp host? Because there is one for these people that want to
Yeah,
contract.
I think it needs to be, yes,
It's-
I'm agreeing with
yeah,
that.
Okay.
Mr. Reif, I would like to say thank you. I think it's a long time coming. I think it's very much needed here in town. Would you like to address anything with us?
No, I've worked with the planning and zoning, and they're a wonderful bunch of people. I'll tell you that right now. Very thorough. I thought they did a great job. You should be proud of the job they do. And, they're very thorough. And I feel like the city of West Burlington has been, with welcome arms
Thank you.
for the idea.
Thank you, Mr. Reif. I don't, this comment Andy made about a parking spots allowed per number of campsites, I believe I don't see it addressed in the code part. I know we're talking about the code right now, and it seems like we may want to add that. I didn't notice it where we require some type of parking per campsite allotment. Go ahead.
That kind of blindsided me. So when I get back, I'm going to look and I'm going to check with the design people. But I thought the area was big enough that you could park a vehicle with the camper. Because like you said, almost everybody has a pickup that goes along with it.
They're pulling their fifth wheel with, yeah.
We didn't, most of those campers didn't get there by themselves. Some of them did.
Yep.
But, and I'm gonna check. And there's going to be plenty of parking, but I would think you would want parking with the vehicle.
Yeah.
So I see what you're saying. We'll take a look at that.
And I think we need to write a comment in the code to that. I'm quickly scanning, and I don't see where we've said something to that effect. We need to do that for future sites to keep enough space there.
I'm gonna look and see if once we insert that into our code, if there's a reference to parking regulations in general, and see if that would address
Oh, okay.
some of that. I'm not sure it will, but I made a copy of it before, and I just can't remember if it even came close to addressing
Probably
it.
not if we're classifying this as residential. If it was commercial, it probably would have that, but.
There's a,
Residential has parking requirements too, for housing.
Yeah.
But we'll check, I mean, because if it's long enough and sufficient, then you would have the parking. I guess we can see how we can word it properly to ensure that there is sufficient parking for at least one vehicle.
And I can send you examples, I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can we approve this as the first reading with that amendment then?
Oh, yes. Mhm.
Then I'll call for a vote on the first reading of this ordinance.
Can I just get one clarification? Are we also looking to add about the enclosed storage? I think this was more so that people weren't just accumulating things around the campers, which.
Yeah,
that-
and I would assume that's not part of this project, but I've just seen that on other ones. You go up to Davenport, I think there's two at least that, it's RV parking, but then they've seen like there's this good side business of RV storage, and I think that's a good thing. I think it's needed. But that would need to be enclosed if it is an option.
It's an option.
I think that's a different regulation for storage, but we kind of address storage in other areas, maybe.
Are you talking about around West Lake? Because they have
storage.
campers
Storage.
stored there, but they're not
If they
covered.
wanted to add it to this.
I've been to the ones that are north of Davenport and one west of Davenport. We used to go up there and do photo shoots of RV parts that we made, right? And they would have, a lot of times, their normal campground setting, and then up near the office was a big shed, big enough to park big Class A motorhomes in. And it was a big part of their business was winter rental of these units so they could be in and out of the weather.
That's already addressed under city code, though, that aspect of it. So if somebody wanted to start simply that piece of a business, that's already addressed under city code for storage. So it wouldn't necessarily be included in here. It's already addressed in city code if they
Okay.
wanted to start that business.
If you feel so, that's fine.
They'd have to switch it back to I-3.
That's
Oh,
where my
okay.
problem comes, is we're not allowing for that to happen,
I
not
don't think you
this.
want- I think if you're gonna change it to residential, I don't think you wanna have a mixed use of permanent storage
Yeah, true.
on
Okay.
on there, but in a zone that's not,
It's a unique zone.
Yeah.
So-
It doesn't matter today anyway, we're not looking to do that, but that was one of the other
Good
things
thing.
I thought we should talk about, because I've seen it, so.
Mr. Wright, can you tell us a little bit about it? How many acres does that consist of, and how many,
Short 10 acres out there.
short, 10 acres?
And we bought that just to put the tank farm there, and then it was a cornfield. Henry Bolin. We stored some junk in the back, but, and then, I heard about the IAAP project. My neighbor was telling me about it, and I thought, it just clicked. I thought that would be a really good spot for an RV. And I don't know, one thing led to another, and that was the thought. To me, it's one of the best uses for that property.
I agree. So you'll have like 90 campsites? Is that what you're, 50 campsites?
And it's going to be a little upscale, we don't want problems. We want good people out there. We're going to have recreational facilities. We're going to do some work at the truck stop, eventually rebuild it, but we're going to have a place for the people to eat. Basketball court, racquetball courts, no swimming pools. No swimming pools. But, that's a general idea, something that everyone can be proud of. I saw the one south of town. I don't want to step on anybody's feelings, but I don't want it like that down Weaver.
Yeah.
I just don't want any part of that. I like concrete. I like concrete roads, and I don't want constant maintenance. I want grass areas in between them. We're going to keep it up. We're going to mow it. And that's what I want.
Awesome.
Call for the vote, please.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you.
And I want to thank everybody for
We want to thank you.
Thank you.
Long past due.
Okay, so our number 9 is consider the first reading of an ordinance amending the official zoning map to establish the boundary lines for this new R6 residential vehicle RV park.
Support.
Motion and support. Considering we just had discussion on this, I would call for a roll call vote, please.
This would just change the zoning of it from the I3 to this new zoning district.
Yep.
Crowner,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert.
Aye.
Motion carries. Number 10, consider a resolution waiving the preliminary plat and approving the final plat for Cousin Eddie's or Edie's subdivision.
So
Sup-
moved.
Support.
Motion and support.
Why that name? I gotta ask.
Cousin Eddie was the guy on the
National Lampoons.
National.
Yeah.
Christmas.
Oh, well. The name of the park is going to be Old 34 RV Park.
Okay.
But I just thought, liven it up.
You got a sense of humor? Is that what you're saying? No.
Give those people down at the abstract company something.
As one who's stayed at many RV parks across the country, I really appreciate what you're doing here in West Burlington. I've stayed at a number of good ones and not good ones, and what you've proposed looks really good, so I appreciate that. If you want somebody to trial anything out, we're there for you. We can do that. Thank you.
A call for a vote on this resolution.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lees,
Aye.
Young,
Aye.
Covert,
Aye.
Crowner.
Aye.
Motion carries. Last item on our agenda is discussing the options for working with the school district to fund a school resource officer position. This is a discussion, and you want to start us off?
Yeah, I'll make an attempt here. We had some recent discussions. It's my understanding the school's teacher that was teaching their public safety component is no longer with the school system. This would be a method to receive additional or appropriate funding from the state to replace that position, but also to then achieve an earlier goal of that we discussed of having an SRO officer out at the out of the school. I tried to put some estimated costs together over the 5-year period. The problem is the current grant application is not out. Councilmember Covert mentioned a state of Iowa one that we'll take a look at as well. But so my numbers are based on the last round of the COPS grant. So total compensation, to kind of give you an idea for the position, the COPS grant covered 5 years, $125,000 this last round. Local cost is noted there as well, 25%. This is typically split out 9 months for the school year, 3 months for the city. During those 9 months, this SRO would be teaching 3 hours a day for their public safety courses, be available for SRO duties the remainder of the day, and then but be available to the city for emergencies and any other and training, et cetera, that was needed during the entire 12 months or 9 months that they were at the school. So this, the COPS grant would be an additional officer on to the city. The SRO would essentially be stationed at the school with this basic summary here. Now, timing-wise, we don't have the COPS grant out yet. I'll look into the Iowa piece of it. If in the short term, they can certify one of our officers to teach at the school district, and they are willing to do that at their cost, and then the city would and compensate the city for the 3 hours a day until we were notified of whether or not we received the COPS grant award or not. So the time between now and then would be covered by the school for those 3 hours a day. Then the remainder would be regular officer duties until we know whether or not we received, were successful with the grant opportunity. A couple things. I mean, SROs I've been working with a number of them over the years. I've seen a lot of positive outcomes. Our school's system's a little smaller than some of the others, but you know, this has an officer stationed in the school. Should something happen, they have the ability to respond immediately. They're able to work with students, create relationships, and build those relationships over a period of time. And in many cases, those students, in building those relationships, are comfortable talking to officers, and you are comfortable reporting issues that may not otherwise have come to light based on, without those relationships that have been built over time with the officer in the school system. So I found a lot of benefit to them over the years. This is an opportunity that's come up with the school system to be able to receive some additional funding, because it is a teaching position as well through the state, through state funding, and offset a portion of the cost. The issue is I don't have the terms and conditions of the COPS grant before us. They need to know and would like to have an indication if we're interested in proceeding with this before if that's the case, and the COPS grant comes out and there's no provision for an SRO, we'll have to deal with it. Or if the Iowa piece is sufficient, but if there is and we get the grant, that's one thing. But in the short term, just to get us through that time period when the school season starts, they would compensate us for those 3 hours of the officer's time. The rest of it would be, of their shift would be on city time until we figured out exactly what was going on here. So we still have some work to do, but really trying to get a sense if there's interest in proceeding this, seeing what the grant ends up being, seeing if we're successful with the grant and proceeding. But they really kind of need an indication. Do they need to hire a teacher? would they be working with the city to utilize one of our police officers as an SRO and into teaching position, and then we would go through the COPS grant to hire an additional officer. So really trying to get an indication from the council, and then we can, I don't have all the information, we don't have all the information, we'll have to bring more back and have additional discussion and see what the grant offers when it comes available.
Okay, I would entertain having you just make a statement as to whether or not you are in favor of this and your
I got a
comments
couple
on it.
questions first.
Okay, ask your questions.
So, I see what happens the first 5 years.
For what?
I see what happens the first 5 years.
Yes.
What happens after the 5th year?
So this last one's a little bit different than the previous COPS grants that I've applied for and worked on. Typically, they've been a 4-year grant with a 5th-year commitment by the community and the school. So typically, you'd have a 4-year grant with X dollars, and in that 5th year, I would budget for 25% of the officer's cost, and the school would budget for 75% of the officer's cost. And in that 5th year, there would be a commitment to fund that position. This last grant was a 5-year grant, $125,000 over that 5 years with no additional commitment. I don't know what the next one would be, but typically, historically, the ones that I've applied for or worked with have been a 4-year grant with a 5th-year commitment. This last one was a little bit different.
Okay, so, but after that 5th year, the city would be on the hook for $80,000 a year?
The city's not on the hook.
After the 5th year?
We would have to decide whether or not we wanted to continue, or, and if not, a lot of times through attrition, you could weed that officer out. But if you found value in having that officer and the SRO officer and continuing the program at a 75-25 split, the cost would be borne between the school district and the city.
That would be another contract that we would write.
Between the school and the city.
75-25,
In
if they would go
preparation
along with it.
If we chose to continue after into
year.
a 6th year, for example, in
Right.
this case, we would want to contract with the school district and determine what that ratio would be, and if we're interested in continuing with the program. Otherwise, a lot of times you're simply able to do it through attrition.
So in the other grants, does the school district kind of assume that the city's going to pick it up and continue that program?
There are different splits. There's 50% splits, there's 60% splits, but there's the only ones that I've been involved with have been historically 75-25% splits. Subsequent to the grant period, irregardless of the grant period, the cost is borne 75-25%, based on 9 months at the school, 3 months at the city.
After the 6th year?
After the
Or
grant period.
After the 5th year?
Yes.
Have you had discussions with Lisa about this?
Yes, they asked us to come in and brought this issue up, knowing that they had a teaching position that was vacant and opening up in the criminology or public safety area, and it was an opportunity. So we met and wanted to get an indication from council if it was something that we were interested in proceeding with. And if so, we have some additional work to do between now and then, but if we're not interested, they would most likely be looking at hiring a teacher.
Greg,
This SRO officer, then, would he be able to take over the DARE program? and
Most
free up
likely,
that
we
one
would just
officer
incorporate
we
the
have
two,
coming
yes.
in?
my question was, or maybe a statement, was the person that is not doing not the teacher that is left, was a full-time teacher, that taught public safety there, right? The one that just recently left?
Yes, they lost it. My understanding is that they had a teacher that was filling the role, in a public safety role, and they are no longer with the school district.
It was like a history teacher that also taught. It wasn't a full-time, only that.
The only reason I was asking, because of the position I was familiar with, was offered as a full-time position last year, teaching public safety. And so I guess my thinking was that whoever teaches, whatever officer is chosen and does a good job at the school doing these 3 hours on the public safety, then they would be also an incentive for them to continue after the 5 years and the 6 years, you know. It's like Greg explained, having a school resource officer is just so advantageous to the public and for the officers too. I mean, because you're having officers probably with young people all the way up to high school. And hopefully preventing problems and seeing things that can go wrong and actually help the students out. There's so many times, even as a DARE officer, I experienced that, just a limited amount of time that I was able, as a DARE officer. And I think the last time we had somebody in the school resources was Officer Deb McCulloch, wasn't it?
Mhm.
That was over 25 years ago. And, yeah, and she was really good in there. And I still, when I became the DARE officer, I actually found letters from, I don't know, students that, not just for her DARE, but just as her performance as a school resource officer. It was pretty cool. And I think we're the only school in our county
Yeah.
that does not have a school resource officer.
It's a positive influence for the kids.
It is. I can't say that enough.
I'd agree. I've seen a lot of success with SRO positions. This seems a better opportunity than we discussed earlier, given the additional state resources that could be put towards the program and the cost breakout. So it seems like a decent opportunity. Again, I don't know what the grant holds, and at this point in time. And as soon as we do, we're keeping an eye on it to see what the terms and conditions of the grant are, and that will likely dictate some.
So when will you know that?
That's the question. We're hoping it comes out any time now, because typically the application period is in June, and you hear in October. So we're hoping it comes out here very shortly.
I only have one question, and that's if we don't get the grant and we're still down an officer 15 hours a week, because they're going to need them the entire year, no matter if we get that grant or not. They need a teacher for that program. So how's that work for our department down an officer 15 hours a week? Are we going to?
That's good.
I guess my thought is, do we actually need to compensate at overtime rate, not at normal rate, because that will be our actual cost?
No, we'd switch the officer to a 40-hour rather than a 20/80 position rather than a shift position. So they'd be working.
But if we, as a council, say we want to have this many officers on duty, this many hours.
If you want to have additional hours,
we're going to be down 3 hours a day. So
Right.
now we've got overtime somebody else.
I think we'd have to have the discussion if we weren't able to move forward with the grant on how we wanted to split that out, or if they would be looking to transition to a regular teacher, part-time teacher, how that would work. I mean, I think that's something that we would have to work out, yes. Still part of the discussion.
So you just need an approval tonight just to see about exploratory into it then?
Well, if there's interest. I mean, if there's not interest in proceeding with an SRO, because there is some cost, and I'm only basing our costs on what information I have today, and the last grant opportunity. There is some cost to each of the entities, but it's a minimal cost, and it's an opportunity to get an SRO in position, give it a shot at a extremely reasonable cost, I believe, from my perspective. But there are still things, yes, to work out, and details to work out. But if there's no interest in covering that cost over a 5-year period, then they need to know that now so they can move in a different direction.
To give you my input, I'm definitely interested in learning more about it and supporting, understanding what the commitment would be for the city and understanding what needs the school sees to be addressed by this. So on that behalf, I'm interested in definitely pursuing more and trying to do as economically as possible. On just a factual thing, when we refer to public safety component or public safety courses in the school, what are those? Anybody?
I didn't write that down. Do you know the actual course names?
Well, I don't actually, I had it there, but I think, I can make arrangements with Officer Brian Carper at Burlington High School, who's done an outstanding job. He's leading the way right now. Matter of fact, I think he's actually putting a dispatch center in there, and probably only have the only one in the state of Iowa. Officer Carper retired, 2 years ago?
2 years ago, yeah.
And I can make arrangements and we can go there and have a tour of his class and stuff. I got to be in his classes 3 months ago for ASVAB testing, and it was really awesome how he's got it set up, and he's got students that's already coming in for the second and third year.
What are,
I can tell you a little bit more.
just tell me what the class is.
on
It's
the
not
ed-
driver's ed, is it? That's,
No, on the education side, the school has to offer 4 different career tracks. So it's actually like to lead you
Okay.
into law enforcement and some capability. So, yeah, it's more of an introduction to the career of it.
okay, thank you. I didn't
It
know
also
that.
includes firefighting too. I mean, it's not just police work and so forth, so.
Okay,
But you remember having either, what we called shop and home ec back in the day.
yes, that's
This
what
is
I
the
re-
expanded version of
Gotcha.
having other options for the
Thank you.
students.
Thank you.
I would like to have more information on what happens after that 5th year. You know, whether the school will be committed to providing the 75-25 after that or not. Because if not, then we're going to either have to pull a police officer out of the school or B, fund $80,000.
Well, I can tell you from the
Typically,
school's
a lot-
perspective on this one, because, you know, as an administrator, I had to make decisions, but I couldn't make them out 5 years because I never knew what the state was going to do in terms of the money that the school was going to get. So probably for, you know, for the 5-year period of time, we could do that. But beyond that, I think you're really in an area we won't know.
And that's where I mentioned attrition. I mean, a lot of times there's an opportunity through attrition to absorb that position back into the department if you choose not to proceed. But my guess is I think you'll see a lot of value in an SRO position. But that would be negotiated between the city and the school.
And just as an aside, I found an awful lot of value
Makes
having
sense. That makes
an SRO.
I
Do you
think
have
we're all
the
interested in
information that you
discussion.
need from our discussion, Greg?
It sounds like there's just in general an interest in proceeding, and if it's somewhere along these lines that we'd be interested in proceeding, is that correct?
Yes.
That's fair, yeah.
And then,
And bring back
obviously, we
finances.
need to bring back more details, but yes.
Well, with that then, I guess I will, any citizen inquiries that we want at this point? If not, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.